Our ancestors worked really hard at making a living, and there wasn't much to spare. So if they wanted new clothes, plain or fancy, they made them. Simple as that. The result was often beautiful things that were passed down from generation to generation. Without really thinking about it, they were making heirlooms. Maybe we don't have time to hand-stitch everything like in the old days, but we can still make things for our families that are a little better and a little nicer than what you could buy. And they will become real treasures to our descendants someday. That's very satisfying.
Heirlooms by Design with Sharon Lamonaco is sponsored by Capital Imports, your passport to fine lace, embroideries, and fabrics. And by Quilts Plus, your authorized Bernina dealer. Nothing sews like a Bernina. Nothing. Now, here's Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Lamonaco. Thanks for joining me on Heirlooms by Design. I have a beautiful heirloom technique to show you today with an update that makes it incredibly easy, and by machine, it is quick. That is, compared to stitching it by hand. I first saw shark's teeth, along with many other ladies, last year when it was featured in the summer 1991 issue of So Beautiful. That's one of my favorite heirloom sewing magazines. The shark's teeth method that we'll be doing is made easier with the use of Wonder Under, a fusible web. The samples of this shark's teeth method were graciously sent to me by Barbara Brandon of Tacoma Park, Oklahoma, along with the instructions that we'll be using today. We'll take a look at Barbara's samples just as soon as we return. On this little girl's pinafore, Barbara has the shark's teeth going around the bottom edge of the skirt, as well as creating a pretty design on the bib of the pinafore. On the mauve blouse, she has the shark's teeth going across the front of the collar, as well as on the sleeves. And this makes a very attractive adult version of the technique. When Barbara teaches this class, she uses this pillow for the project. The batiste is then backed with another color of fabric, which shadows through the batiste for a very attractive look. On the front of my dress, I have added edge lace under the tucks, so that the lace will peek out when the shark's teeth are positioned. There are many attractive ways you can embellish shark's teeth, from adding lace to embroidering rosettes, or just using a decorative stitch on your machine with some beautiful sulky rayon and machine embroidery thread. Let's go to the machine and get started on shark's teeth. Now, to begin making shark's teeth, the fabric that we'll use is 100% cotton. We'll be using a Swiss batiste, and this particular type of Swiss is called Pima Petticoat batiste. It's a little less expensive than the Nylona, and I like to use it for doing practice kinds of things like we'll be doing today. The fabric needs to be one that will hold a nice sharp crease, and when we start using the polyester batiste, they don't quite hold the crease as well as we need them to. The first thing that you need to know, you need to determine how many tucks you're going to have on your garment. On the front of my blouse, we have 8 tucks. However wide your tucks are, you will need 3 times that width of fabric. For example, if you're going to have a series of 8 1-inch tucks, you will need 8 times 3, or 24 inches, just for your tucks. You will add that number to the fabric that you're going to be measuring. Also, we're going to be creating our fabric first, just like we do with a lot of other heirloom sewing techniques. The next step is to starch our fabric well, and the lighter weight fabric, the more you're going to be starching. We want it to really hold a crease and to be able to be handled easily. I'm going to, now that I have my fabric starched, I'm going to draw my lines on it. And I will just use a number 2 pencil. I want to have something that's dark enough for you to be able to see. If I were doing this on something that I was going to wear, I would use a lighter pencil, probably a number 3. I'm drawing 3/4 inch tucks right now. Your tuck lines must be drawn very, very accurately. In this technique, there is absolutely no substitute for accuracy. But many of you have probably heard that from me before, haven't you? Somewhere along the way. I'm going to just continue drawing my lines until I have enough for the sample that I'm going to make this evening. Now that I have all of our lines marked for our tucks, we're ready to press the creases. And we're going to press these all before we stitch. I'm going to fold this right on that line and give it another little shot of spray starch. We want it to be nice and straight and nice and crisp. Now I'm going to come up to the third line, and what we'll do is press every third line. And sometimes it does help to finger press these first. You can keep it a little bit more accurate. And we're just going to continue on in this manner until we have all of the tucks pressed. Remember, we'll be pressing on every third tuck line. Now that we have pressed our tucks, we're ready to start ironing our wonder under and marking with our grid. Now I have a grid drawn with 3/4 inch lines, and I have indicated the areas that need to be clipped, and these are also the areas that will be backed with wonder under. It's best to start on the row that has the most tucks on it, that are going to have the most shark's teeth. So let me place this underneath my fabric. I have finger pressed the center, and I will place that little press right on the center line. Now I just position my ruler and extend the line from the grid up onto our tuck. And this doesn't need to be real dark, just dark enough for you to be able to see it. I've also cut lots of nice strips of wonder under. I'm using a 3/4 inch tuck, and I like to have my wonder under a little bit narrower than the tuck. So these are cut about 5/8 or 1/2 inch. Now we need to place wonder under on the back of this so that it extends the width of the tuck beyond the first cut. So in this case it will be extend 3/4 of an inch. So my first piece of wonder under needs to be cut at 12 inches. And I'm going to mark the middle of the wonder under with a finger press, turn it over, and we'll iron it onto the back right along the line that is drawn on the back. The nice thing about this wonder under technique, in addition to making it easier to sew, is that it's going to also keep our shark's teeth nice and crisp when they're in our garment. Make sure that's pressed nicely. I'm going to get my big scissors out of my drawer here. And we're going to clip just up to the line. Now we'll turn this over. I have one more clip to make here. Thought that looked like a little wide edge. And I like to work with my tweezers for this and peel off the Wonder Under. And we're going to start pressing. And of course, when you're pressing these, you do want to be careful that you don't get any Wonder Under on the bottom of your iron. If you should get any of the fusible web on your iron, Easy Off by Dritz is a wonderful iron cleaner, and it will come right off with Easy Off, or Iron Off rather. Easy Off for the oven. I bet you're surprised you even know about that, huh?
Heirlooms by Design will be right back.
Now that we have all of our little points pressed for our first row, we're ready to open this up and press it down. Now this crease is just above our line that's drawn on the opposite side. And we're ready to go to the sewing machine now, and we'll stitch along this line. I'm using a straight stitch with about a 2 stitch length, and I'm also using that wonderful foot number 10, the edge foot. And I'm going to guide our drawn line right along the center of that edge stitch foot. And here's our first row of shark's teeth. By the way, I am using extra fine sewing thread. We want something that's not going to be real obvious. You could also use silky machine embroidery thread if you had some kind of a color that you couldn't quite match with the extra fine thread because of its limited colors. Now we're ready to go to our next tuck. And we already have it pressed in place, so we're ready to lay it on our grid. And again, let's finger press our center so we know exactly where to place it. And again, draw your first line and just continue across. And we'll measure. Remember, we want to extend the Wonder Under for the width of the tuck. So in this case, we're going to cut a piece of Wonder Under 7.5 inches long. Now we'll press it to the back. Mark our middle. Place it against our drawn line. And be sure the Wonder Under is fused well. enjoy having a technique where we do the row that has the most on it first. That means we get done faster. Or it feels like we get done faster anyway. Now we're ready to press this over. These tweezers really do come in handy for this job. Also, it helps to keep your fingers from getting ironed. Now again, we're going to open this up. And press. And if you feel like you need it to be a little bit more crisp, then just give it another little shot of starch. The more starch, the better with this technique. And we're ready to sew again. Again, right on our line. And here's our second row of shark's teeth. And we're going to continue with our third row.
Sharon will be right back with more Heirlooms by Design.
Now we're ready to mark our last row. And we're ready to stitch our last row. And here we have a piece of fabric with shark's teeth ready for the construction of a garment or pillow or whatever we're going to put it in. Now I want you to remember that when you cut your Wonder Under to go under the shark's teeth, however wide your tuck is, this is a 3/4 inch tuck, so for each row of shark's teeth, my Wonder Under extends beyond the mark 3/4 of an inch, so that all of the edge is going to be secured with Wonder Under. And all of our little tucks have been stitched into this seam that we've made on the top. And our back looks beautiful as well. Nice and neat. Get all of our threads off. And we're ready to now place our pattern onto our fabric, and we're ready to cut out our garment. Now if you would like to add some lace to your tucks, we do that before we do the stitching, and I'm just going to show you on this little piece right here. After we've pressed our tucks in place, we can put a little dab of glue stick on these, position our lace underneath, glue stick's wonderful stuff. And we just need a little bit. We don't want to really muck it up. Just to hold this in place. And now you're going to stitch right along your line, and that will also take in the lace heading. And then you can press it open, and the back won't even have the little lines of stitching. It'll just be rows and rows of tucks. That's how I did the front of my dress. Also, when the lace extends just a little smidge below these tucks, it covers up the row of previous stitching, which is very nice. So you can see this is a really easy technique. It does require some accuracy. And again, I'm sure you've heard that from me before. Now we'll just press this down, and our tuck will be in place. And that's how easy it is to do the shark's teeth with lace. I hope you've enjoyed this technique for shark's teeth as much as I have. Can you imagine how tedious it would be without fusible web? I can't imagine what we would do without technology. If you would like a copy of the grid for the 3/4 inch tucks that we've used today, just come into Quilts Plus and Julie will be glad to run you a copy. While you're in the shop, you will find all of the supplies necessary for today's technique: Swiss batiste, Capital Imports laces, fusible web, and sulky machine embroidery thread. I've really enjoyed visiting with you today. I hope you will continue to tune in to Heirlooms by Design. In the coming weeks, we have many exciting techniques to show you. They will range from quilting, French machine sewing and English smocking, to machine embroidery and lace making techniques. And all of them will be Heirlooms by Design.
Heirlooms by Design has been brought to you by Quilts Plus, your authorized Bernina dealer, and by Capital Imports. Thread racks on the set of Heirlooms by Design provided by Handcrafted Wood Products, Mobile, Alabama. For an expanded version of today's show on VHS videotape, send $29.95 plus $2.50 postage and handling to Lamonaco Designs, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama, 36201. That's Lamonaco Designs, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama, 36201. Be sure to ask for today's topic by name. Visa or MasterCard accepted. Sharon will be back with more Heirlooms by Design next week.